Holy Grail of Valencia. He has curated exhibitions, organized international congresses, and delivered over 2,400 lectures worldwide. He has also authored numerous publications on relics and Christian history. Since 2019, he has been a visiting professor at the Pontifical Athenaeum Regina Apostolorum in Rome, contributing to syndological studies. Professor Rodriguez.
Thank you. The first thing I need to beg pardon, but because my English is not very good. I use 5 languages, but no English. It's a mistake for me. It's a mistake. Well, we will speak about the Sudario. Sudario is a Spanish name, but I will explain it. Sudario of Oviedo, his reality, his history, and his scientific study. Well, this is our association, that is the Spanish Center for Syndology, or of Syndology. I don't know is the correct form to say in English, but maybe 2, both, no? Well, introductory remarks. First of all, I need to say some things. I'm aware that the Sudarium of Oviedo in Spain is still not well known amongst the research of the shroud, the síndone. However, it's becoming an indispensable element to understand the síndone, I think. In 1989, the Spanish Center of Syndonology started an exhaustive research about this cloth, and as a result of the research, 2 international conferences were organized on the subject in 1994 and 2007. My presentation should be understood as a simple introduction on the existence of the Sudari and some of the research conducted on it, but it is essential to understand the talks by Dr. Pedro Peinado in the other this morning, Dr. Sanchez Hermosilla, and this before, and Mr. Cesar Farta, no? But the order of the speeches are changed, and then it's a little stupid to speak about the what is the Sudarium before to explain some things about the Sudarium, but it's not possible to change that. Well, the first thing that we need to explain is the terminology. That is very important in this aspect. No, as síndone in the Gospels, we have 2 words: síndone, that may be used like the shroud, and the Sudarium, that may be a face cloth in Jesus' sepulchre. There are 2 linen. Then I consider I consider it essential to clarify the terminology I will use in my speech in order to avoid confusion, because the Bible translations are often very imprecise. In Greek, in the original language of the Gospels, we have 2 words, Sudarium and síndone. Sudarium in Latin sería Sudarium, and síndone is sin linteum. No? In English, we can speak about the Sudari or Sudarium, that is a face cloth, and linen cloth, a burial shroud. Then the Sudarium may be, or it could be, the cloth of Oviedo, and the síndone, the Shroud of Turin. This is the first thing that we need to be clear. Well, the 3 synoptic Gospels state that Jesus was wrapped in a síndon, linen cloth, purchased by Joseph of Arimathea. Matthew specifies that this linen cloth was katara, that means pure, no clean, pure. It's different absolutely, which means without other favors in the culture. The Jewish culture is this difference is clear. The Sudari is not mentioned in the synoptics, but in John's Gospel, the term Sudarium translates as cloth or napkin sometimes, appears twice, but it's often mistaken with the burial shroud. There are things different. John makes a clear distinction between Lazarus with a cloth and strips of linen and Jesus, whose body was covered but by a big cloth, which he emphatically calls lion linen. But the English translation is horrendous. Horrendous. It's absolutely different. Then, in the East, a medium-sized cloth is used to absorb sweat from head and neck. This cloth could be called a sudarium, handkerchief, derived from sudara, that means sweat. In classic Latin texts, it is equivalent to a towel. This medium-sized cloth could have many purposes, among them covering the head of a condemned man according to Hebrew customs. Echoing John's words, the apocryphal Gospels, the Acts of Pilate, emphasizes of Jesus' head covering with a sudarium. There are then another text outside of the Gospels that concern the difference, Sindon and Sudarium. It has been proved that this type of burial, although infrequent, was common in the Jerusalem in the first century. This form to cover a corpse. Whenever a large cloth was used to cover the whole body, no other cloth was needed. However, anything that had absorbed blood from the corpse had to remain in the tomb. Everyone knows about the shroud, obviously, but not so about the sudarium. John says that when they arrived on the morning of Resurrection Sunday, they saw the Othonia Caimena, the cloth flattened, deflated, outstretched. There is not an exact translation for this, and the sudarium was in the place where it had been left. The comparison between the shroud and the sudarium in the same size will be that, in the same scale. They are two different places, but compatible. The Shroud of Turin is an example of a burial cloth in Jesus' time, and the Sudarium of Oviedo is an example of a sudarium from Jesus' time. Some references have reached us through very indirectly, indicating that the apostles may have collected the burial clothes from the tomb. We have 3 or 4, but the presentation have changed the types of letter, and now is very confused. But there we have some references. But the most important reference is an usual extra-biblical reference from the 1st century. Is a reference from Nonus of Panopolis, a writer up from Upper Egypt in the 5th century, that paraphrasing, bueno, me explico, ya está. Eso, it's not very easy to me. The Gospel of John says, following behind came Simon, who immediately entered. He saw the clothes empty, together collapsed, and the cloth that had covered the head with a knock at the back of the hair. With a knock at the back of the hair. Remember it. In the native language of Syria, it's called Sudarium. It was not alongside that the burial is very, very, very piccolo, but was rolled up extensive upon himself, twisted in a separated place. It's the same version of the Gospels. Introduce the Sudarium and say, with a knock at the back of the head. Bueno, this is reference, biblical reference, no? And we need to explain what is the Sudarium of Oviedo. The first thing is a venerable relic. But the question is there anywhere in the world an alleged relic that could be the Sudarium of Christ? The answer is yes. At the Cathedral of Oviedo, Principality of Asturias, Spain, there is a cloth from the 9th century in the cathedral, believed to be the Sudarium of Jesus. It is solemnly displayed every year on Good Friday and the 14th and 21st of September. And another question is, could this venerable cloth be the one that is mentioned by John? It has been venerated since the 9th century in the Chamber of Relics of the Royal Palace of Oviedo, which is now part of the cathedral. Alongside the Sudarium, there is also the ark in which it arrived to Asturias, the capital of Oviedo, along with other relics from Toledo, the former capital of Castilian. And we need to speak about a bit of a story. The relocation of the Holy Ark. Most of the documentary references found by magazine are published in the book The History of the Sudarium of Oviedo, but we cannot analyze them in detail, of course. But the oldest reference to the Sudarium is the manuscript of Saint Antonino Martyr, written by pilgrims of Piacenza who visit Holy Land in 570 AD. And these texts say, near the Jordan River, not so far from where the Lord was baptized, nor for the monastery of St. John, there is a cove with cells for 7 virgins, and specify boys. It's so, then monks, no? It is said that the Sudarium that covered the Lord's head is kept there. This is the reference. During the Persian invasion in 614 AD, the Holy Land was devastated. King Khosrow's attempt to seize relics to demand ransom for the Christians. The monks of the region, now part of Jordan, died as martyrs, but they managed to secure certain relics which they sent to the west. Documents referring to the transfer of the Ark state that the parts towards Alexandria, and then the most important Byzantine port in the Mediterranean that has the name Cartagonova, now Cartagena in Spain, on his way to Seville. Seville was at the time the cultural and ecclesiastical beacon of Spain, and his bishop, San Isidoro, was the ideology of the new Visigothic monarchy. Upon this head, in 636 AD, the ark was sent to the court of Toledo. Toledo was the most important, the capital city of Castile. then became the invasion of the Muslims. No? With the Muslim invasion, Christians from both central and western parts of the Iberian Peninsula flowed to the north. In the 8th century, the Ark was deposited on the Monsacro, a sacred mountain in Asturias, and afterwards in Oviedo. A Muslim author, Abunkenke Muhammad Rasis, said, "Many Christians living the cities fled to the mountains of Asturias and brought with them the relics they called of hid them in underground places." In Asturias, we have this chapel that is in the upside the mountain.
Okay.
Bueno, this is the ark, the holy ark that is in the chamber, the holy chamber in the Cathedral of Oviedo. Bueno, in year 1000, the epic of the Holy Ark was already known in Europe. The news of the Ark's relocation from Holy Land to Oviedo appears not only in Asturian texts, like the Libro de los Testamentos, Book of Testaments. Manuscripts found in Brussels or Valenciennes or Cambrai also speaks that of the relics in Asturias. Another reference is in the year 1075 ED, King Alfonso VI of Castile visited the Holy Chamber together with some noble members of his court, such as El Cid Campeador. The monarch ordered to cover the Holy Ark in silver and to place an inscription that indicated the presence inside of the Sudarium with blood of the Lord. This is the inscription in the lip of the Holy Ark that say Atque Sudario et curore Domini, the Sudarium with the blood of the Lord. The Sudarium, once removed from his reliquary, is a cloth with no apparent material value. It is considered value. If it is considered value, it is because of its presumed connection to Jesus. Over 1,000 of years, no one understands what the Sudarium was because it is not described in the Gospels. 1,000 of years in Oviedo, and nobody knows what's that cloth. Nor there was a way to study it, but when a scholar of the Shroud came to Oviedo, Monsignor Giulio Ricci, the history of the Sudarium began to have a sense. This is Monsignor Ricci, pioneer of the study of the Sudarium. And the study of the Sudarium becomes. Ricci was the first communicator with his book, L'uomo della Sindone e Gesù, from 1985. This is the book. Ricci arrived in Oviedo expecting to find a complementary cloth to the shroud, which he believed would be a sort of chain band for the corpse. He was surprised to find so much blood in the Sudarium. And he discovered, I think, that it was the key, the first key. Ricci, seeing the symmetry of the main stains in relation to a fold, deduced that they have formed with the cloth placed folded over the blood source. This is the main stains, and we have asymmetrical stains in this part. But however, he folded the cloth the wrong way. The two parts of the reverse side were not together, but separated. Not in this side, but on the opposite. There is no doubt about this because the fold, which is the symmetry axis of the main stains, creates a wrinkle in the opposite direction that Ricci expected. But hence why he could not understand what what were the asymmetrical stains. At this point, the Spanish Center of Syndrology, CIS, obtained the authorization to carry out a full multidisciplinary studies of the Holy Sudarium. After Rich's publication, which spoke of the Sudarium in Spain as a complement of the Shroud, the CIS requested permission from the Archbishop of Oviedo, who conducted the relevant studies. The Archbishop delegated authorization to the Cathedral Chapter, which granted in a plenary session the November 9th, 1989. To carry out the task entrusted to this, our association creates the research team, the CIS, que es EDICES. In his first stage, the team was made up of technicians from more than a dozen official institutions from Spain, Italy, USA, and the United Kingdom. This is the EDICES. The first step was to establish the morphological difference between the stains of both sides of the cloth, because a cloth has both sides. Albeit similar, the overs and revers are not the same. They are different, very important to do the research. This is the overs, and the another side is the revers. We call overs the surface that it was visible when we visited the Sudarium in 1989, and we have used always the same nomenclature. And revers the surface that was uncovered upon unstriking the Sudarium from the frame and flipping it over. During the first stage of the multidisciplinary study of the Sudarium, this was photographed and filmed using various wavelengths, visible, light visible, infrared, ultraviolet, etc. The analysis of the cloth wrinkles yielded much data about this use. Linen fabric, unless starched and ironed, always retains traces of wrinkles and lots. He found that some wrinkles were symmetry access for some stains, and therefore they were as whole as this. This allowed us to reconstruct the different ways of the stains. No? Under visible light, the Sudarium seems to have little blood. However, backlight reveals a considerable amount of hematite material trapped between the threads. The discovery of organic matter particles that were not pollen and which disintegrated upon electron flow in the electronic microscope was key. These granules are agglomerated of resin of aloe and storax balsam, is a substitute of mirra in Orient, which had adhered to the blood stains when this was still fresh. The finding connects the Sudarium to the Eastern burial costumes. The electron microscope revealed the presence of red blood cells adhered to the particles of aloe and myrrh, in this case, storax. Dr. Villalain, with his team from the Department of Legal Medicine of the Complutense University in Madrid, and later from the University of Valencia, led the hematological forensic study from 1990 to 2012. Now, Professor Sánchez Hermosilla, forensic doctor at and professor of anthropology and forensic genetics in the Catholic University of Murcia, has continued Dr. Villalain's research since 1912. And we can to speak about only a few conclusions. First, of the first conclusion is that we have put name every stain in el Sudarium. Each stain was individually identified and studied. We will speak about some of these stains, but obviously we can't explain every stain, But we will study two groups of stains. The main stains that are in the center of the Sudarium is the first group. Found in the main part of the Sudarium, we have the main stains. Its maximum station corresponds to the background stain, and is the more large. In the middle, with darker color, there are the central stains. This first stain, main stain, is one that was over the blood source, and is compatible with the size of a human face. But if the stains were formed and stained on 3D surface, we could not pretend they match a flat image of a face. To check the points of alignment, we must project these stains onto a 3D surface, like this. This is a first comparison with a neutral human face, not the face of Christ, the neutral human face. It was the first group of stains, the main stains, symmetrical. And the asymmetrical stains are another group. And we have three types of stains in the asymmetrical group. The first, they are that. The first, the upper stains in this group, asymmetrical. In our hypothesis, these stains correspond to the area of the cloth placed over the back of the head. When wrapping the Sudari on a head using nasal wings and mouth as reference points, discovered by the forensic specialists, and as reference points, this cloth corner falls on the occipital zone. The second part of the asymmetrical spots is the butterfly wings stain. It corresponds of the area of the shroud that was placed over the upper part of the neck when the hair was tied up, forming a dart with the Sudarium, and it was staged. That will explain the symmetry of the stain that we call butterfly wings. Upon pitching and stretching the hair with the Sudari, a sort of a strand is formed, and after stretching the cloth towards the left shoulder to fully wrap the head, say straight and is moved to the left. And this movement is visible in the shroud because this part of the hair is moved and this in the same position, in the same direction. Rich's corner stain which he cut off a fragment has a different composition, and it looks different at the infrared light. It does not belong to blood from inside the body, nor for the superficial stains. Eso. Then, another conclusion, to make sense of all these stains, the Sudarium must have been placed in 3 successive positions. The first position of the cloth, swing to the hair at the nape, it's wrapped around the night cheek. There is, aquí no se ve muy bien, bueno, sí. There is, it is stretched along the side and folded over the face, forming a double layer. In this moment, it formed the backside, the large stain, the main stain. The upper part of the background stain is formed with the body placed in vertical position, in the cross, like this. And the lower part of the background stain is formed with the body placed in horizontal position, when the liquid fluid to the front. This is the first position. The second position of the cloth is that. Once move the arm that prevents wrapping, the cloth wraps the head and forms a hood of sorts, reinforced by a knot at the back of the head, like this. Eso. Before finding the 5th century reference about the knot, our forensic team already observed that in undoing the knot on the model, similar wrinkles are produced to those of the Sudarium. In the model and in the Sudarium, the wrinkles are in the same position. And the question is, does the Sudarium confirm Nonus of Panopolis text? And how did that 5th century author know about that note? It's impossible. It's a coincidence very strange. And the third position of the cloth, after being sprinkled with myrrh, aloe, and other ointments, the Sudarium was removed and left wrapped together in the place by itself, like, say, John 27 and 8 verse. This third position is confirmed because the ointments are stuck of the blood at the inner side of the hood that was formed in the second position. Some years ago, 3 months before becoming Pope Benedict, Cardinal Ratzinger granted me an official audience where I presented our findings, our first findings. He was very receptive about our study and encouraged us to deepen in our research. He said, literally, continue your research for these strangers or faith. And we are on it. Over the last years, the Edices was focused in the findings about the coincidence between the Shroud and the Sudarium. Once established the main findings about the nature of the Sudarium, our team has been reduced, but it is focused on the study of the coincidences more and more relevant between the Shroud and the Sudarium. The coordination between forensic medicine, geometry, anthropometry, and mathematical analysis of the stains has made it possible to detect conclusive coincidences. Each and every one of bones that appear on the head of the man of the Shroud have an exact correspondence on the Sudarium. The topography of both heads are exactly the same. It's not a coincidence. It's very, very similar. The stains do not fit just any face, because the one in the Sudarium, the one in the shroud, has very special morphology. It's not a normal face. Dr. Miñarro López, professor at the University of Seville in Faculty of Fine Arts, has spent many years studying the geometry of the body of the man in the shroud. And he has formed this sculpture that represents a most accurate form to represent the face of the man of the shroud. He has achieved through approximation of the body further than what our eyes can see when they look at the face of the shroud. But the superposition of the main stain, the Sudarium, in this sculpture is absolutely perfect. The curve in the nose, the superimposition of the Sudarium's stains over that face reveals a totally coincident morphology. Then, thank you for your attention. I remain at your disposal to answer the pertinent questions with the help of our huge partner, Mr. Fernando Figueiredo. And excuse me by my English, but worse English. I will intend.
He asked me to help him translate any questions that may come up. Let's see.
Is all clear, or it's absolutely confused?
By the way, did any of you see the presentations this morning? Because we have Dr. Fernando, who's over here, and Dr. Barca. The analogies that you see here, basically like 99% assurance that the two cloth covered the same person. We're not saying it's Jesus, but with 99% assurance, the two cloth cover the same person at the time that person died, and right after that.
Y es imposible que una tela sea del siglo XIV si la otra está en España es del siglo VII.
Yeah. So what he just said is impossible that one of the cloth would be from the 14th century, and the other one, as you can see, very well documented to the 7th century. So
Deben
the carbon 14 dating is
bye.
Yeah,
Is the point, final point.
Thank you. You've convinced me 100%, but I have a question. According to Jewish custom, the jaw was tied on. Was this separated from the shroud before they put him in the tomb and then they set it aside?
Sí, lo he entendido. Entonces, primero, es necesario colocar un sudario porque al bajar el cuerpo, el líquido sale por la nariz y por la boca.
So the Sudarium was first.
It's
My voice
necessary.
is still gone.
to
So the Sudarium was first put on when he was on top of the cross, because then when he was put up vertically, but then when they take him down from the cross horizontally, that's where you have the two markings of the blood, one up there, and then the other one down when they took him down.
Pero cuando se utilizaba una síndrome completa para tapar el cuerpo, se retiraba todo.
And then once he was in the tomb, and they put the shroud over him, the Sudarium would have been taken off and then folded and put on the side. And then the shroud would have been put on the body.
Pero tenía que estar cerca si tenía sangre del cadáver.
Yeah. And so the Sudarium needed to be maintained close to the body, because by Jewish culture, the soul of the individual is actually carried in the blood. So the soul is with the blood, so the blood on the Sudarium and in the shroud needed to be kept together as part of the Jewish culture.
but not inside, outside.
Yeah, on the side, right, outside. Yep.
Thank you. Terrific talk. Fernando, I've got a booming voice. My wife tells me anyway. Can you comment on Dr. Alan Wenger's work in 1978 with the polarized image overlay technique where he overlaid two images and found
Are you familiar with Dr. Alan Weiser's work? That they found how many?
120 points.
Que encontraron
Sí, bueno.
100.
Sí, sí, I was in this conference and I saw the first comparison between las manchas de la nuca.
The stains on the back of the head.
He was the discoverer of that. And yo estaba iniciando la investigación del sudario y nos sirvió de pista para
Yeah, they were just beginning all this research in the Sudarium, and it was that research that led them to continue their studies.
One more follow-up, if I may, briefly. On the back of the Sudarium, my research has shown that there were needle holes, and they thought that they pinned it in the back, and yet your
Que
work
habían huecos
shows
de
a knot.
agujas,
Is there any
agujas que le estaban.
contradiction
No.
Que habían unos.
Sí. Hay unos agujeros de coser con aguja.
Right. Yeah. There are holes where they were used to sew the Sudarium to the hair, to the back.
But we also showed a knot, so were they both, or?
Y que también hubo un nudo.
Sí, el nudo estaba detrás, lo hemos visto. Sí.
So the knot would have been up here, I guess, in the. So they got it both.
Nosotros invitamos al doctor Wanger a que viniera a Oviedo y estuvo trabajando con nosotros.
Oh, yeah. So he's saying Dr. Wenger was invited to come to Oviedo and actually worked with them on that same research.
Thank you.
But
Ala.
you say that the Sudarium has a face, you found trace of mirror and something like that.
That's
So when Jesus, they take from the cross, they don't have mirror or something like that. So it was clean with blood and rain and so on.
sí,
This
sí.
is the only.
Sí, pero se utilizan todos esos, la mirra, el halo y otros componentes se utilizan para conservar, incluso la sangre.
I don't know if you understood that, but it is that the mirror and those spices are actually used to put on the body to actually conserve the body and the blood.
And the blood.
They actually remain, allow the blood to be conserved.
No, but generally, you see, the women go, they clean, and then take the perfume and all. It's typical to
No
to wash.
cuando hay derramamiento de sangre. No se hace eso.
So they don't wash the body because the blood needs to be remain. When there's blood in the body, the blood has to remain. They can't wash it away.
This is an exception. It's the legal situation of the corpse with a mental, every Jewish mentality.
Jewish culture.
In the Jewish culture, there are exceptions to clean the corpse. And one is si hay derramamiento de sangre.
Especially, I mean, when there's blood, it's not going to be cleaned off. That's part of the Jewish culture, that the blood has to be maintained.
There are three exceptions more. Cuando se muere condenado por no
Yeah, the
hebreo.
only exceptions are when someone is condemned for criminal condemnation.
También cuando muere por manos de no judíos.
Or when that person is dead, killed by non-Jewish individuals.
The other question is that, as he has presented, there is a very nice symmetry of the face. But when you take a body from the cross, you can not put the cloth very symmetry in order
Do
to
you
have
think that
Yes.
that is symmetry?
bit of-
No,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
right.
symmetry.
Also, the hair was all running away and
Correct. That's why it's so difficult. You're making a great point.
But-
That is why it's so difficult to be able to make the matches. And when the presentations this morning actually made that very clear because of the wrinkles of the Sudarium and then the cloth itself, the shroud. And then yet they've been able to pull together all those congruences.
Nothing again, I'm just trying to clarify.
Yeah, he's trying to clarify, yes.
Sí, sí.
Yeah. Okay, no, very good.
Perfect,
very good.
perfect, no problem.
Thank you.
It was an excellent presentation,
Well.
and also I make all pictures, because it's nice to clarify step by step, that not in every step we can say we are sure.
Right,
Be some
correct.
deviation. This is my opinion.
Yeah, he's saying that you cannot be perfect match.
Dile, pero que nosotros estamos estudiando el sudario desde 1989 y más de 40 personas han estudiado el sudario.
Yeah, so since 1989, they've been studying very detailed the Sudarium, over 40 scientists and people doing the
In 20
studies.
minutes it's impossible to say anything more.
Yeah,
Estoy contra el
Sí, sí, sí. Lo entiendo, lo entiendo.
Studio pruebe per,
Okay, okay.
Said Yusef saying he's not against what he's saying, but that he concludes.
We understand, we understand.
Let's go to the next one.
Yeah, over here.
Just the date, there's a chain of custody from the 7th century, is that what you said? Where it's
Sí,
been,
que ha estado bajo custodia, que se sabe desde el séptimo siglo, en donde ha estado.
Sí, o sea, en el siglo VI se menciona el sudario en Jordania.
So in this 6th century, you already start having reference in Jordania.
Y en el siglo VII llega a España.
And then in the 7th century, in the year 614, I believe, is when it arrives in Spain, in Cartagena,
Sí.
and then it goes to Seville, Yeah,
Seville, Toledo.
Toledo. And then
And at the end, with the invasion of Muslims, go to the Oviedo. That is a very good. Yes, exactly.
yeah, I don't know, if you saw that chapel that he showed up up in the mountain, that is way up in the Pyrenees, way up in the mountains.
the last, just very briefly, 2 dates, you said it's brought out in September, on the 14th and the 21st of September. What is the significance of those dates?
¿Cuáles son las
Sí,
fechas?
es muy fácil. El 14 de septiembre es la fiesta de la Santa Cruz.
The Holy Cross is the 14th of September, is the Feast of the Holy Cross.
Antiguamente se bendecía 8 días hasta el día 21.
So they would continue to bless it and venerate it
Every
for
day.
8 days. Yeah.
Pero por culpa nuestra, por culpa del Centro Español de Tecnología, solo se bendice el 14 y el 21.
So they just, because they actually made
Because
the point,
it's very-
they're only blessing it then, or only keeping it venerated on the 14th and on the 21st.
On the-
He says it, because of what they did at the Center of Spain Synodology. I don't know what that is. I don't know if he wants to mention why they did that, because it was being venerated for 8 days, but he says that it was just kept on the 14th and then on the 21st.
Cuando nosotros llegamos a Oviedo, no tenía ningún tipo de protección el sudario. Se podía tocar.
Okay, so that's a good point. So from the, just to protect it, to be able to keep it away, so, okay?
And
we
in
got about,
19
we have about 4 minutes left, so we have to go quickly. There's some more questions left,
Vale,
so
vale.
go quickly, please.
One of the unexplained vacuums in the shroud's analysis is that the top of the head has there's no evidence of it. Is it possible that either a chin bandage or the Sudarium had something to do with the fact that we have that gap?
No.
Que en la cabeza, en el sudario, y ni tampoco en el shroud no hay evidencia de sangre, pero yo creo que es porque la corona no permitía la sangre.
Sí, bueno, this is a thing that we are studying, but the coincidence, because the Sudarium grabbed the
Crown of
head
thorn.
in this form, in the syndone in this form, and there la parte frontal y dorsal de las manchas de sangre son coincidentes.
Yeah, so what they really
Arriba,
study with all the
I don't
other,
know.
but this morning in Cesar Barta's presentation, he was saying that the crown of thorns itself, remember, they would have been would have kept the blood from flowing. The blood would have flown down the skull, and the crown of thorn actually would have kept blood from going up above it. So that lack that you mentioned, which is true, was explained by Dr. Barta.
A ver si puedes traducir esto. A ver.
Okay, one more question. A ver, una pregunta más.
So, Professor Hermosela and others have published their research about evidence on the Sudarium of a wound that they think is an exit wound from the lance that shows the side wound on the Shroud of Turin. I wonder if you could speak a little bit about that, high on the shoulder.
Que dice que hay alguna evidencia de la lanza.
Sí. Sí. Hay en la síndone, en la espalda, hay un pequeño corte y cubriendo
Yeah, you're right.
con el sudario
Sí.
coincide con la esquina de Richie.
So you're right. He says that yes, what happened in the shroud, it's on the Sudarium, on the corner bottom part of the Sudarium, you have that
Coincide.
same point that you just mentioned, that coincide, the two coincide. Yes.
But we can speak a lot of things more, but it's not possible.
We're going to have to stop. Time is up.
Okay.
Maybe.
Thank you very much.